as usual, there are ways in which what we're witnessing today is not a surprise. What we're witnessing today is something that extraordinarily, it's a surprise and a shock at a certain level that most Americans would go along with it. But it's been forecast and predicted by film and by TV shows of a wide kind for quite a while. For example, take the ever-prescient Simpsons. Let's show one of the clips the Simpsons had for how can a government seize power in a way that the public will be completely compliant with and accept and not question or challenge. So let's go to that clip from a Simpsons episode some years ago that forecast where we are today.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time.
That is so...
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on something that's in every household, something that people are a little bit afraid of already. House cat flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern. So petter beware, that warm body on your lap just might be ready to destroy your tender fiddles. Springfielders are advised to stay tuned for more information if they experience any of the following symptoms: mild thirst, occasional hunger, tiredness at night.
That is the world in which we reside today in many ways. Once again, the Simpsons have forecast the future, and just by understanding the nature of power and how that power can be misused and abused under the guise of a public health crisis. The same sort of concern about how in which the government will misappropriate its power in this context was also forecast and foreshadowed frequently in the show X-Files. So as they talked about, the way you control the disease is you control the information. Much as what we've seen them control information about the contextual history of viruses, showing us a different data path than what was projected by the modelers. Equally, we've also seen them remove the data about the fact that most of the people who are dying are people who had very short life expectancies or may have died of something other than the coronavirus. Thus, the only 14 people from New York who had no pre-existing conditions who died of the virus, meaning the virus is not a risk to most Americans, meaning that there's ways in which they don't have to panic, and we don't have to remove their civil liberties or suspend them, and we don't have to shut down our economy to achieve it or attain the outcome and desired result. In the same sense, the X-Files predicted and forecast which kind of agencies would be involved, how those agencies would be involved. But let's just go to one of those clips about how if we control the disease, the way we control the disease is we control the information, just like the Simpsons forecast some years ago.
I don't care who you are or what your business is. I want you out of here right now.
Not until I get some answers.
You're in violation of federal statutes.
I'm a federal agent, sir.
Who are you on the phone to?
To my partner, who needs to know if the men he's pursuing are infected.
That information is unavailable.
Well, then I want to see charts, and I want access to the infirmary.
You see what I let you see.
Come in.
Thank you for seeing me at this late hour, sir.
What is it, Agent Mulder?
This case we've been assigned, I believe we've been misled, possibly deceived.
Deceived? By whom?
Whoever originated the case.
What is the accusation, Agent Mulder?
That Agent Scully and I were sent on this manhunt without knowledge of the existence or nature of a contagion.
What is the exact nature of the contagion?
It's deadly. It kills within 36 hours. One escaped convict was infected. He's dead now. The other man may be infected. He's on the loose.
Does anyone know how it's communicated? Whether it's a virus or bacteria?
No, we just know that over a dozen men have died from it, and it appears to be highly contagious.
Then you don't know much, Agent Mulder.
Why weren't we told the truth?
We didn't know the truth. What we knew would only have slowed you down.
But innocent people could be infected. What you knew could have prevented that.
How? In 1988, there was an outbreak of hemorrhagic fever in Sacramento, California. The truth would have caused panic. Panic would have cost lives. We controlled the disease by controlling the information.
You can't protect the public by lying to them.
It's done every day.
Done every day. We control the disease by controlling the information. Don't believe that's happening here in the United States? Well, looking aside from the issue of all the data that you have not received, data about, for example, parts of Italy that are have the disease and have the rate of disease, a lot of that disease coming from people who are not residents of the area. So it may be connected to migration patterns, including major Wuhan migration, working in factories in northern Italy. So they can claim that the product was made in Italy when really it's made by Chinese immigrant workers on behalf of a Chinese-owned company. You haven't seen data and information about the history of Italy's flu epidemics and why they were particularly susceptible in a way that was not reflective of the United States or would be predictive of it. You haven't seen data and information about how the history of viruses showed that this was not going to have the infection rate or the contagion rate or the spread rate amongst asymptomatic people, as was wrongly and incorrectly forecast by some of the key models and some of the key experts in press. You haven't seen data and information about how the mortality rate within cities and regions is actually either staying the same or in some cases going down. It's going up in some places, like northern Italy, but it's actually flatlined or below it in large parts of the United States. You haven't seen that information. But it's not just the lack of information and the information that's withheld from you. There's also materially false information. Let's look at this clip from CBS, which claims to be about how badly this is impacting American and New York City hospitals. And so you see here, they're showing this important footage.
In Lombardy province. It's one of the most advanced hospitals in Europe.
So what you see at the top is you see CBS claiming this is about New York, and on the bottom it claims it's from what it actually shows is Sky News. It's from Italy. It's from someplace other than New York City or the United States. So it's meant to create this scary image of all these sick individuals in this compressed hospital environment. But in fact, the truth is they're showing something that's not happening yet in the United States, may not even happen in the United States, though it does often happen in the flu context. You'll see multiple stories over the years in which the flu leads to warlike conditions in hospitals across the country when it reaches a peak problem. This is because there's always been an overcapacity question or problem in this regard. So when we come back on the bottom half of the hour, we'll take your questions as the jury. Whatever questions you have, whether this pandemic is more panic than plague, whether or not the political response is reasonable or unconstitutional, whether or not the economic shutdown is justified or dangerous. You have your questions, you ask them, we'll answer on the bottom half of the hour when we come back. Welcome to Free America Law Center. We have needed for quite some time a law organization dedicated to protecting the freedom of speech, the freedom of thought, and the freedom of press in America against big tech and big media colluding, using their powers to deplatform, their powers to defame, and deep state harassing those whistleblowers who come clean to protect our rights of free elections, free speech, free thought in America. We have long needed a counterpart to the Southern Poverty Law Center, a counterpart to the ACLU, an ACLU that represents everybody, not just the left, to do for civil rights and civil liberties in the modern digital age what the NAACP achieved in the 1960s and 70s for the rights of African Americans in this country. We need to extend that and expand that. And thus, the people have spoken, and you have been heard. Many of you have called for the creation of a law organization dedicated to protecting the legal rights of ordinary individuals and the public for the freedom of press and the freedom of speech and the freedom of thought against the power of big tech, taking them and removing them from their platforms, denying the public membership access to the various public square platforms that dominate the public debate and public discussion today, the various efforts of big media to defame and libel and lie about people because of their political beliefs, to target them for lawfare and libel in ways that are unprecedented and unparalleled in our history. Hence, Free America Law Center at www.freeamericalawcenter.com. Now, this organization depends on you. You get to decide what to make of it. You get to decide what power we are able to wield. We have put together the lawyers who are willing, ready, and able to assist. We have put together the legal team and the public relations team to be able to make this organization as successful as any other. But it will depend ultimately on you. We offer each person a monthly subscription rate at a discounted $17.76 a month, meant to reflect the citizens of 76 as the promises of the First Amendment and the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Subscribers will receive a digital book each week that's about the Bill of Rights series, so that you can be self-informed and self-educated to protect your First Amendment freedoms. In addition, we will be providing a weekly Q&A podcast where you can ask questions that our legal team will answer each week that will be exclusive to those who are monthly subscribers. Your willingness to participate in this organization can make real the promise that you have sought, a law center organization dedicated to equalizing the playing field and balancing it out to protect the free speech and free press rights of all Americans, not just those of any particular political or ideological stripe. The Free America Law Center also supports Robin Gritz, a long-standing national security FBI agent who worked side by side with General Flynn to protect us from terror. But when she exposed corruption and rogue activities within the deep state portion of the FBI, people like Andrew McCabe, people like James Comey, she was the one railroaded outside the FBI. That is why we represent her to achieve justice to defend those who blow the whistle on deep state corruption. Free America Law Center is also supporting Alex Jones and InfoWars, which is the tip of the spear for First Amendment rights in this country, both the freedom of press and the freedom of speech. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google have all targeted Alex Jones at InfoWars to use it as a template for how they can discriminate against other public speakers and members of the independent press across the nation. His case is everyone's case. His freedom is everyone's freedom. That's why Free America Law Center is supporting those cases and supporting the lawyers bringing those cases and supporting the legal actions necessary for justice to be done and for the rights of the First Amendment to be protected for all. So we have heard your calls for those actions to be taken, your calls for this organization to be created. The people have spoken, and you have been heard. This organization, Free America Law Center, is in response to your request. You can make it a reality so we can restore the First Amendment for all in America.